All right, folks, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome aboard the Max Afterburner podcast. Matthew Buckley, call sign Whiz, powered by No Fallen Heroes. And, folks, I am all about diversity here. This is the second week in a row I've had a cheesy Tomcat guy on here, exceeding my quota, although a half Hornet guy. But you build one bridge, you're a bridge builder. So, Mark Slider Keller, what's up, my brother? You good?
Hello, Whiz. How you doing, man?
I'm living.
I brought my cheese with me. I hope you're happy.
I expected a polo shirt underneath the flight suit, but that's pretty damn good. Looking good up there in Bob Beach, right?
Yeah, man.
Awesome. All right, so Pigpen, right? So, and everybody, if you're familiar with the Max Afterburner podcast and the No Fallen Heroes project, you're familiar with Slider, great American who's done the medicine, experience with the medicine, which we're going to talk about because he's got some incredible things to tell. But the first part of our podcast, I want to get into Slider, man. Or actually, let's get into Mark, and then the transition to Slider, and then transition to medicine, man. So give the peeps a little bit of your background, man, and how you ended up in Naval Air.
How did I end up in Naval Air? Great question. So I grew up watching I Dream of Jeannie and Lost in Space. And I figured if I ended up flying jets, I could date Barbara Eden or someone like her. So that was
Love Barbara. I had a thing, man. Still have a thing for Barbara Eden. Jeez. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was it. I just grew up fascinated with aviation. My dad's a private pilot. He went to lots of air shows and stuff like that. I grew up fascinated with that. Always wanted to be an astronaut. That was my big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Major Nelson was the man.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just fascinated with all that. I grew up with telescopes, and just it's always my thing. Yeah, it's funny how I got there. I went to Penn State straight out of high school. Majored in social life. Did very, very well in that. Wasn't so focused on the space program, maybe.
Yeah.
Or the wrong space program. Who knows?
Correct.
But I ended up enlisting in the Air Force.
Sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that.
Well, it's okay. There's no yin without the yang.
Yes. Good point.
So I got my yang on first, but no. I just realized I needed to find a little direction. So I enlisted in the Air Force. Picked the longest technical school they had, which was electronic warfare. Figured, hey, if I'm going to serve, I'm going to get as much education out.
Wow. Electronic warfare, man. Protons, neutrons, electrons, and booger eating. Yes.
That's right. Trons flying everywhere, beeps and squeaks. So I learned about radar jammers and stuff like that. Went and served a year in South Korea back in 1988. 89, saw the Olympics there, all kinds of crazy stuff in South Korea, a lot of political unrest.
Mm-hmm.
It was a neat time. After that year, I went back to Hurlburt Field in beautiful Fort Walton Beach, Florida, home of the first Special Operations Wing.
Yeah.
Did my thing there. I worked mid-shift, midnight to 7 a.m., and went to Okaloosa Walton Community College during the day. I did my penance for all that fun I had at Penn State.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. So I did that. By the time I got out, I transferred to the University of Florida, where I completed my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. Much more focused on the stuff that matters at this point. Had kind of given up on aviation and NASA and all that at this point. Just kind of dug a GPA hole. Penn State. I kind of let the dream slip away. But
yeah,
I had an interesting life there. Because of my security clearance and my background in electronic warfare, I got a job working at something called the Electronic Communications Lab.
Okay.
That's basically a cover story for radar research. Goes all the way back to So I started my graduate program. I was pursuing a PhD in electrical engineering. Figured I'd be a college professor. So
Jesus.
What was interesting, though, is I sat in the lab 5 days a week on a computer because hardly anyone builds anything.
Correct.
And that life, there was a stark contrast to the rest of my life, which was So on the weekend, I was busy jumping out of airplanes, doing free fall photography. There was 2 different worlds there. There was this action-packed adrenaline world, and then there was this academic world, and I was happy in both of them. But the day came when I looked around the lab, and I said, I don't know if this is enough for me. And so I literally pushed my chair back, and I just started thinking. I'm like, all right, I'm young. I can do anything I want. What's the coolest thing in the world?
Yeah.
And like you, I'd seen the Top Gun movie, the first one.
Never heard of it.
Flying off an yeah, right. I figured flying off an aircraft carrier was the coolest thing in the world. So
yeah,
I got out a phone book. I looked up United States Navy, and I picked up the phone. I got the recruiter on the phone, and I said, "Hey, I want to fly those F-14s. What do I have to do?" And he laughed at me. He's like,
"Yep.
There's a couple steps first." So yeah, whatever. Young and unaware of my mortality. I powered through all that, and I did end up in the backseat of an F-14. So I'm a goose, not a Mav. I like to say the brains of the operation.
Certainly not the looks.
No, you're a single seat guy.
Certainly not the looks. I'll give you the brains.
Sure, why not? All right, so 2 anchor guy, and that's where I ended up.
So flying Tomcats, tip of the spear, man. Beautiful airplane. I call it a bullet sponge, but great airplane. Love the Tomcat. Great airplane. Now, talk us through, unfortunately, some tragedy. So what happened in the nav that kind of shifted the arc of your life, and then kind of why you and I are sitting here talking right now?
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot to that story. So, I'm a curious guy. I spent my whole life taking things apart. My dad was an engineer. We had a laboratory in our basement. I'm now an electrical engineer. I'm doing research. I'm just a curious dude.
Yeah.
I just get under the hood on everything. My first deployment was spring of 1999. We went straight to Kosovo. And in Kosovo, we dropped butt tons of laser guided weapons called the Paveway 2 laser guided. And because of that, I learned a lot. That Air Wing carrier, Air Wing 8, and that 99 cruise dropped an insane amount of Paveway 2 weapons. That conflict's notable because it's the only time in history that air power alone has driven an invading force.
Great point. That's a great point. Yep.
Yeah, it was a really historic cruise. They had 4th generation integrated air defenses. I saw SA-6s. Artillery Pristina looked like 4th of July.
You didn't see SA-6s like Scott O'Grady saw an SA-6, though, thankfully, right?
No dumbass Scott O'Grady.
Exactly. What do you mean dumbass? He got a DFC from the president, right? Or something insane. Isn't it cool how you, like, if you fuck up, you get medals? It's awesome.
Well, I'll tell you what, nobody's ever going to use their survival radio under a space blanket again, are they? Anyway.
Exactly.
Hey, Scott's a great American, Virginia guy.
Yep.
Sorry, bro. But
yeah.
That was ugly. You made the most of it. I'll give you credit.
Oh, God, yeah. God
but
bless.
Anyway, so, he did very well for himself. So anyway, I learned a lot about that weapon system. Fast forward to our next deployment, 2001. This is the final deployment for the F-14As and VF-41 and VF-14. We were the first guys to retire. Make the switch to the plastic jets. We're the entire deployments in the Persian Gulf, unprecedented amounts of activity in the southern no-fly zone. We were dropped some bombs there too. Got shot at a little bit. I saw some and aircraft artillery flying over Basra and standard stuff that we saw at that point. Went through the Straits of Hormuz on September 9th, 2001. We were, this is a crazy story, man. September 9th, 2001, Straits of Hormuz. We're heading down the east coast of Africa. We're going to port in South Africa, which hadn't been done in 20-something.
Yeah.
It's not with a nuclear powered ship. So we were pretty stoked about that. We were going to go shark dives and safari. And all this
Yeah.
stuff. We were pretty pumped about that. On September 11th, we were probably, we were in the Indian Ocean, probably off the southern tip of Somalia, if I had to guess. I was sitting in the ready room in my gear, me and the duty officer. Of course, everybody else was in the rack. I was sitting in my gear ready to do a post-maintenance check flight. So we're waiting for the bird to come up from the hangar. I'm just sitting there watching TV when the first tower pops up, the breaking news. I see all that crap. Of course, I'm going, holy shit, just like everybody else.
Yep.
When the second plane hit, I knew exactly what was going on, just like everybody else. The difference is I was on a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier a few hundred miles off the coast of Pakistan.
Yep.
Within 3 minutes, the ship made a big left turn, and we went trucking up, set up station off of Pakistan.
Yep.
And we had to sit there for about 3 weeks while state worked out overflight of Pakistani airspace, tanker support, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We could have been flying strikes the next day.
Yep. Where's the aircraft carrier, man? That's what the president always asks.
Yeah, the Air Force couldn't get there. They couldn't overfly Iran. So they had a long. That's probably a whole nother.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff the Air Force did. Love you guys. Anyway, so predictably, we dropped shit tons of Big Way 2 weapons there as well. So I would say that the guys in my group, that wave that made both those deployments with Carrier Air Wing 8 at that time, probably were the world's foremost experts, at least from a combat deployment perspective, on that particular weapon.
Yeah.
We learned a lot about what those weapons could and couldn't do. Lasing techniques. Do we turn the laser on right away when it comes off the airplane? Do we wait and let it free fall and turn it on later? That's at the heart of my story. What's coming up, the bad shit. But fast forward. Let me take a break. You want to talk about Top Gun for a sec? What Top Gun really is?
Sure.
Before we get to the rest of it.
Yeah, man.
Let's just take a second and do that, because the movies still don't get it right.
No.
And before I say this part, let me just say that Top Gun is an excellent organization. They have made naval combat, air combat power much, much more effective. I mean, we're the best in the world for a reason. And the work that goes on out there is a lot of it.
Correct. And Top Gun, so folks know, Top Gun is just one of, it's called NSOC, right? Naval Strike Air Warfare Center. So we actually have like a Harvard of weapons, and Top Gun is like underneath it, right? So NSOC is kind of the big thing. We have a lot of booger eaters in windowless rooms with the air conditioning turned way up, in manuals and books and trying to figure shit out too. It's not just Goose and Mav flying around. It's a lot. NSOC is awesome.
Yeah. It's a big, expensive place, and they do amazing stuff. I don't know anyone in that program, or really in the entire Navy, that isn't a great American, a smart guy, means well, does what they think is right. I mean, that's one of the great things about serving in the U.S. military. I mean, you're just surrounded by professionals.
Correct.
Really care. So, as we go into this, just understand that I'm not bashing anyone personally. It's just humans involved, and we're imperfect, and stuff happens. So
correct.
Going forward, after that deployment in 2001, NSOC Top Gun was looking at when do we turn the laser on? Do we turn it on right away, or do we turn it on later in the time of flight? And there's lots of technical reasons for that. It's probably not worth talking about here, but that debate went on inside of Top Gun, and they came up with a set of rules for if in this situation, turn the laser on at this time. If in that situation, turn it on at that time.
Correct.
It was totally contrary to what I experienced in VF-14 on those two deployments. Our sister squadron, the girls next door, VF-41, Black Aces, they actually had a different school of thought on that. I think a lot of it was because our commanding officers just didn't like each other, and I'm just going to do the opposite of what that guy did.
No, Jesus.
I don't know.
Yeah.
there was definitely some of that going on, but
Mm-hmm.
we were right, by the way. Uh,
Yeah, there we
we'll
go.
prove that later here in the story, but they came out with these recommendations. So fast forward, I do a tour as a RAG instructor, in the Tomcat RAG back here in Virginia Beach, a couple of years of that. Come up to 2005, I'm now the strike operations officer, again for Carrier Air Wing 8. As strike operations officer, one of my responsibilities is to advise the Air Wing commander on weapons employment.
Mm-hmm.
How do we load out our aircraft for the missions we're going to fly in this situation we're going into?
Mm-hmm.
What are our rules? What are our tactics, techniques, and procedures? All that stuff. That's part of my job. So we're heading over there, and I start pulling up the mission reports from the Air Wing ahead of us, looking at what kind of missions they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my job. And what I'm seeing in 2005, we're chasing Al Qaeda around Iraq. We're trying to just figure out their networks. We're dropping a lot of bombs in populated areas, taking out houses full of bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that.
Pinpoint though, pinpoint precision bombing, right? I mean, we're trying to put a bomb through a window. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So an errant bomb is, likely to cause
the
death of innocent people.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, something we want to avoid. So, my Air Wing commander at the time, who was one of the greatest Americans I've ever met, definitely the best DO I've ever had, a human being I love, a great fighter pilot. I just can't say enough about the guy. Former Top Gun CO.
Mm-hmm.
His deputy Air Wing commander, same description. I mean, these are just the best guys you're ever going to work with. Love them. I love them both. Also, former Top Gun CO.
Okay.
So, I'm looking, the Air Wing commander starts talking about, all right, what are our rules going to be for how we employ these weapons in Iraq? And, he said, we're going to go as fast as we can. And, we're going to follow the Top Gun recommendations about where to turn the laser on.
Mm-hmm.
And as a matter of fact, not only are you going to go as fast as we can, I want you going downwind. He's like looking for every bit of speed you can get when you drop this bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from? That comes from kind of a Cold War mindset where we expect to be dropping bombs in highly defended
correct
environments where there's a lot of surface-to-air missiles and stuff like that. So hauling ass is absolutely critical.
Speed is life.
Other thing is speed is life. You got to defend yourself. The other idea that actually I think it's kind of misunderstood by a lot of people at that time was, you understand that a bomb going faster is a better thing because it's got airfoils that deflect.
Mm-hmm.
And every time it does that, it bleeds a little energy. And the faster that bomb's going, the better control it's going to have in its terminal phase where it's coming into impact.
Mm-hmm.
So he puts this stuff out, and I'm going, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm like, I beg to differ, sir. I said, there's no surface to air threat here for us, not the altitudes we're operating.
Correct.
Obviously, Hilo guys had a lot of different stuff to deal with, but we're not up at 25, 30,000 feet either.
Mm-hmm.
We're in all these altitude blocks. I mean, there's predators zipping around and spooky aircraft you've never heard of. And I mean, that's a lot going on here. And so you're just strictly staying in these altitude blocks when you're delivering these weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And we're pretty low. I mean, much lower than we would be in the Cold War
correct
mindset. Put it that way. And I'm going, well, wait a minute. You're telling us we're down low. You want us to go fast. Here's the problem with going fast. Think about this. I got a target. Here's my target right here, right? And I'm this airplane flying over top, right? Imagine I'm in a hot air balloon. I drop that bomb, it goes straight down, right? So if it's making little corrections and stuff, they're not a big deal correction, and gravity's always working with them, right?
correct.
The bomb pretty much stays over the target the whole way down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I'm in an airplane, right? I'm moving. So here I come. I get to some point that's a ballistic release point. That my computer says, hey, given all the current conditions, all the inputs I have, this is the right spot to let that thing go. And if it free falls, it's going to be pretty close to the top.
Yep.
Well, as you go faster and faster and faster, that
Further out.
release point gets further and further away from the target, right? Now you have a lower trajectory on that bomb. faster you go, the lower that bomb's coming, the lower angle that bomb's coming.
Correct.
Now, the way these things work is you let that thing come off your airplane, it free falls, you turn the laser on at some point. As soon as it sees that laser spot, what that bomb does is it tries to maintain that same angle towards the target. The way it does that is something called bang bang guidance. We didn't have proportional guidance back then. What would happen is if the bomb said, "Oh, I'm a little bit high," those fins would deflect all the way. The bomb would go nose down.
Correct.
It would overcorrect, and then when it realized it overcorrected, the fins would go the other way, and it was just going like this all the way down. And you've probably seen it in videos. You can find it on YouTube. They go like this as they come in.
Correct. Bleeding airspeed the whole time.
Exactly. So you're bleeding kinetic energy. So what happens when, you were on a wire here, that bomb had a straight line to the target, right? As it's bleeding energy, what happens? You get something called trajectory sag. That bomb starts going lower and lower.
Yep.
And then the laser, and then you're on a new line, and it fights to keep that. So what we saw a lot in Kosovo and some in Afghanistan as well is if we leave the laser off to the very last second, just let this bomb fall on a nice trajectory, ballistic trajectory, you have steeper impact angles. And we found that our release points, our computers were calculating good release points. It was getting it close enough that you could turn the laser on the last couple of seconds, and it would make some little adjustments and come in at a nice steep angle.
Exactly.
Okay, so that steeper angle is a really, really good thing, because when you come in at a low angle, if that bomb happens to be below the wire and correcting up when it encounters the ground, now your bomb hits short.
Correct.
Right? This is greatly exacerbated when you turn the laser on the instant that bomb comes off. Right? Because now it's doing all these corrections the whole way down instead of just the last little bit, and you're having really low impact.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Top Gun's recommendation in the regime we were operating in was to have the laser on
the whole time. Yeah.
Which I knew through a lot of experience was not necessary, but whatever the arguments were inside the schoolhouse, that's what they did.
This was the stand.
This was the stand. And Top Gun never says you must do something this way. Top Gun says Top Gun
recommends. Yeah, exactly. We recommend. Yeah.
So here's some rope, bro.
Exactly. We use the word recommend, so you're to blame.
Well, yeah, that's not. I think it's to give you some tactical flex.
Yeah.
It is a little bit of a problem. So, my boss is saying, "Hey, we're following Top Gun to the letter, blah blah blah," and I said, "Top Gun does not apply here.
Yeah,
Top Gun's wrong about this, boss." And I went to him, a few times, sat in his office at night, trying to convince him that Slider's right and Top Gun's wrong. Seems like a pretty tall, a little bit of a stretch, if you know me.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, so I was very passionate about this. I felt like it was a moral obligation to press on this. And so I became more and more forceful in my argument and try to explain it different ways. And what I realized now, with the benefit of hindsight, is you can't have a Top Gun commanding officer and another Top Gun commanding officer as air wing commanders, and the first thing they do, the first time, these guys had never dropped a bomb in combat before.
True.
These are Navy captains, but
Correct.
They just weren't in the right places at the right time. It just hadn't happened for them.
Correct.
So, I'm a new lieutenant commander at this point. I'm talking to my boss, the 06, who's, like I said, great guy, approachable.
Dude, yeah.
He listened. I just failed to convince him.
Yeah.
And what I was up against was he's just not going to leave Top Gun, go out on the pointy end of the spear and go, Top Gun's wrong. He just couldn't get there.
Yeah. I get it.
So one night, the deputy grabs me in the passageway and says, "Slider, you're pissing the boss off." He's like, he says, "I appreciate your passion on this topic." He said, "But you're pissing him off. You got to stop."
Wow.
What other option do I have to?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That was it. So, there's the setup. Here comes the punchline. A month or two later, it was it was December 2005. I'm mission commander on a two-ship. We're at this time, the way things worked in Iraq is you would get these grid squares, these great big 60 by 60 mile squares. You would fly up there and you would just hang out and wait for somebody on the ground to say, "Hey man, I need a bomb over here." We were doing something new at that time, which is called split section ops.
Mm-hmm.
So our strike group commander, Jaws Winnefeld, another great American Tomcat guy, realized that, hey, we're mutually supportive through data link and radios. We can service 2 squares.
Yeah.
So that was great. So we were doubling our coverage we were providing for the ground force commanders, which was a great thing. But if something happens in my square, I'm the dude, right?
Yep.
So here it comes. The night before, there was a fob. This is a little town called Baji, about 60 miles northwest of Baghdad. Fairly small town. We had a fob outside of Baji.
Forward operating base. Yep.
Yeah, and our Army bros were, I think, on their way back to the base the night before, and an IED blew up in the road, and fortunately lost some lives. So here we are the next night. I just happened to be in this square over Baji. I'm mission commander. Another interesting thing is the guy in the front seat, monkey boy driving the bus, was one of my students going through the F-14 rag. He was in the very unusual situation of being a senior lieutenant, but on his first deployment. So he had no experience with this stuff. And, I'm not in the squadron. I'm an air wing guy. So we're flying a VF-213 jet. He's a VF-213 guy. I'm an air wing guy. So I work for his boss's boss.
Yeah.
Good dude. But we had some problems in the cockpit here. So anyway, so it's the next night after this IED attack. And an Iraqi woman reports some shady looking characters stringing wires across the same road. Right in the town there. And she goes to the police station and reports this, and an interpreter there is relaying this stuff to the fob. I end up talking to the JTAC at the fob, and he gives me a great big talk on it. It was quite a thing because they had no way to generate coordinates.
Oh, geez. Wow.
It was
old school.
It was totally old school. I mean, it probably took us 20 minutes to get our sensor on this thing. But once we did, there were some dudes behind a building running out, checking something in the road, coming back. It was late at night, way after curfew. Nobody was supposed to be out. These were military age males. I think there was about 5 or 6 of them. It just looked shady as hell. By the time we get in there, they've now got a Hunter UAV, so a drone, their own, that's flying around the area, and they're getting an even better look than we are because they're down lower.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we got to take these dudes out. So we asked if they wanted a bomb, a 500-pound bomb on there, and they're like, I think the ground forces commander was worried about collateral damage. And I think they must have been a lack of understanding of our capability with the gun in the airplane. We've got a 20 millimeter Gatling gun in it. But the only way you can shoot that thing is get down really low to the ground. I mean, you're in the short hairs. You're way down in there. It's at night. We're on goggles. We're flying low. I mean, it was just a freaking disaster waiting to happen. But we go in there and we try to strafe these dudes. So we go Zorchin in there, start pulling the stick back before we hit the ground, and we bottomed out at, 200 feet something.
Oh, Jesus God. At night.
At night, yeah. I mean, you can't see shit on the guy. The goggles are here. You got all these flames flying out in front of the airplane. Your night vision goggles go,
boom. Yeah, now I can't
blind.
See. Yep.
I mean, it's just a bad thing. But, we sprayed some bullets around. I don't know that anything bad happened, but certainly nothing good happened either.
Yeah.
These guys all scattered, and we can see them on the FLIR video.
Sure.
And they scattered, and a couple of them go into this one house. So we climb back up, and we're like, I don't know if we had any effects there. And the JTAC says, okay, you're cleared to put a bomb on that house. Right. And so now I have a problem. Because I know we're in that altitude regime where we're supposed to continuous lays.
Yep.
They're supposed to come on right with the bomb.
Turn the laser on.
I know if we follow orders here, we got about a coin toss chance of that bomb hitting shore. Also turns out, because we're supposed to go downwind, that the run-in heading had another house just short of our target.
Oh, geez.
We were coming in from the east. There was a clear area to the south. So my first discussion in the cockpit with the pilot is, dude, we need to come in from the south.
Yeah.
No. Okay, it says downwind. And I'm like,
Oh.
fuck. Turned the tape off. I wish I didn't do that.
Yeah.
It'd be a great lesson in cockpit resource management. But
Yeah.
we basically had an argument.
Mm-hmm.
Screaming at each other, but I'm trying to get him to go. I'm like, dude, trust me. I've dropped over 50 of these things in combat. I know what the capabilities are. I'm like, just trust me. We got to get a higher altitude and we got to go slow.
Mm-hmm.
Got to go as slow as we're allowed to. We know what those numbers are. And he's like, no, that's not what CAG said. I'm like, look, dude, I work for CAG.
Mm-hmm.
Your boss works for my boss.
Mm-hmm.
You're a lieutenant. I'm a lieutenant commander. I'm the mission commander. Like, I'm like, dude, if this goes bad, I will take the grenade. It's all on me because I'm having a moral dilemma in the cockpit.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, we're not just cruising around. I mean, we've got 4 radios going.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all
fucking busy.
Shit. I'm working the sensor. I mean, we're busy as hell and we're arguing. And I give him the front radio and go, dude, see if you can get us a higher altitude block. No dice on that.
Uh-huh.
And so here we come. We run out. Come back in on our bombing run and we're hauling ass, 500 knots plus. And in my mind, I'm going, okay, I know that the moral thing to do is delayed lays this thing. Let's just give it the best chance we can. Even though we fucked up our release parameters, at least I can turn the laser on at the last second.
Exactly.
And then I'm sitting there going, I'm a professional military officer. If I defy, that was a direct order at that point. I'd have a finger in my chest. I'm like, if I defy this order and it goes badly, I could end up going home.
Correct.
Maybe even in prison.
Worse. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. And even if I defy it and it goes well, I'm at least going to get an ass chewing.
Exactly.
Which I can take.
Yes.
Had a few.
I've had a couple of those.
Oh, I can imagine you have. Badge of honor, bro.
It is.
Anyway, I didn't make a decision. I couldn't make a decision. I vapor locked. We were busy. I was fighting the sensor. We had some queuing problems. I had to go manual and do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working my ass off, and the bomb comes off, gunk, and my finger I just turned the laser on.
Yep.
It wasn't ever a conscious decision. I just did.
Yeah.
Once you turn the laser on, you can't turn it off.
Exactly.
Right, because if that bomb's making a big correction, it
loses
the laser
it.
off. That's never going to see it again, and who knows where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm committed. We got about a 25-second time of fall, something like that, and I'm just sitting there going, oh shit. Hits the house next door.
Oh Jesus Christ! Oof! The short one.
And yeah, it hits short, and it's a coin toss. If it was above the wire, we might have had a really nice hit.
Mm-hmm.
Turned out it was below the wire and we hit short, and that happened to be the next door neighbor's house.
Jesus.
Yeah, so I said some bullshit on the radio, like, yeah, a little short, but might have had good effects, whatever. I'm already going, oh fuck.
Yeah. Yep.
We go back to the boat. We land, we get out of our gear, we go down to intel, turn in my tapes, I tell them what happened. We review the tapes. Turns out it's a textbook delivery. Absolutely by the
right on parameters.
Top Gun standard.
Yep.
Yeah, we did absolutely everything right.
Mm-hmm.
Except that the plan was bad. So
yep.
The next morning around lunchtime, Dad calls me into his office and sits me down. He's like, hey man, that house you hit last night had 3 generations of Iraqis. It's not clear if it was 9 or 12. There's a couple newspaper articles that came out about it the next day. 9 or 12 people, but it was a multi-generational family.
Jesus.
Dad was an Iraqi. All dead.
Wow.
And yeah, it was pretty tough to handle, and we still got a lot of deployment in front of us. I got a job to do.
Yeah.
CAG was awesome about it. He said, Slider, you didn't do anything wrong. Poor as hell. Bad shit happens. He's like, you can't put this on yourself.
Yep.
I said, yes, sir, I understand.
But
Well, we're really good at compartmentalizing.
Yep.
In that line of business, you can't have some friction with your wife and then go fly a mission and be all fucked up in the head over it. You got to
Correct.
put it in a box and set it aside. And so we're really good at that. And I did that to the best of my ability. But, looking back, I was an angry man for the rest of that deployment. I mean, it was bad.
Yep.
I was a jerk to my coworkers. I was pissed off. Get the fuck off my computer. I mean, I was just a miserable wretch. And I did do some things to rectify it. I went and took that delivery, the tape of that delivery. I did freeze frames, every freaking frame during the release phase and during the terminal impact phase. I drew vectors over things, ground references, all this stuff. I crunched the numbers. I did the math trig in there. And what I did was I built a case that these bombs are coming in at lower impact angles than the books say they should.
Yep.
There's something called the 6 degrees of freedom model. It's a mathematical model that the Raytheon engineers came up with. It's supposed to describe how these bombs behave in flight, predicted impact angles and all that stuff. And I knew it was wrong.
Yep.
Because I'd seen it over and over, and just intuitively I knew it was wrong. Now I had to make my case because I was pissed off about this laser.
Fuck yeah.
My boss and his deputy were amazing. They were fully supportive of writing this book report, submitting it to Top Gun, and getting them to look at these recommendations again. It was about 2 years later. They actually did change the way we do business.
Wow.
Something good came out of it.
Yeah.
But I was already fucked up.
Dude, that's incredible that it took 2 years. I mean, you went heads down for the rest of crews, did the math, crunched the numbers, said innocent people died, man, and it still took the schoolhouse 2 years to change the recommendation. Was it just hubris? Did they not want to admit they're wrong? I mean, you had evidence. And first of all, you had experience, and then now you have hard evidence.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no way of knowing what went on in the sanctum sanctorum over there at the Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
They're great dudes. I'm sure they
Correct.
went, oh, crap, we got to look at this again. They probably went back through the entire process. My guess is they went to Raytheon and said, hey, look at your 6DOF model.
True.
I mean, I don't know. I'd love to excavate the details.
Yeah.
It took a while to make that change. And CAG, I wasn't in that command anymore, but DCAG found me and said, hey, Slider, I want you to know they changed it.
Wow. Good man.
But I'll tell you what, it was 5 years after that in a therapist's office when the therapist said, if that happened to anybody else, they probably wouldn't have known how to do all that analysis and fix it.
Correct.
That never occurred to me.
Dude,
I was just pissed off.
when you were talking about your background, whether experimenting with your dad and labs and your engineer, I mean, dude, you're looking at Whiz from South Jersey, political science major. Ain't no fucking way any of that would have happened. So that is so true, dude. You were, God put you in the right place for the right reason, man, clearly.
Yeah, and I didn't have that vocabulary or that understanding.
Back then. Exactly. Yeah.
Not back then, man.
You carried it.
Foreshadowing to where we're going with this conversation eventually. But yeah, no, that guy was smart, and at that point, I was able to see it. But I mean, I was already way down the road with all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of detail on that, but I'll fast forward to where that ended up going. Is I came home depressed. And angry. My beautiful wife and my young children.
Mm-hmm.
And that eventually led to her kicking me out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
She said, we have everything anyone could ever want. We have this beautiful life. She said, I'm tired of you being unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I was unhappy. I didn't know why.
Yeah.
She wasn't wrong. I was probably tough to deal with. I was drinking more than I should. I was just angry all the time. I just kind of detached.
Mm-hmm.
So she threw me out of the house, which, she was doing that to protect herself.
Correct.
But it definitely made things worse.
Yeah, that didn't help you, but of course, yeah, Jesus.
No, it didn't. So, here I am, detached from anything that even resembles a support mechanism. And, I went wild. I was just drinking a lot, out partying. It was just fun, fun, fun. I would have told you at the time I'm having a blast.
Correct.
I wasn't.
No, you were hiding, man. Numbing.
I was numbing out my pain, man. I couldn't deal with it. It was overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard. So, yeah, that happened. I'll tell you what, man. I got teed up here. So, about 3 months after I'm kicked out of my house, I find out I have prostate cancer. 42 years old.
Jesus.
By the way, I don't know if you know this, but the incidence of prostate cancer in the fighter, in the tactical aviation community is about 3 times higher than.
Yep. And by the way, the the suicide rate among veterans who are diagnosed or have cancer is 60% higher than normal veterans. We work with Bing Crosby, another fellow Tomcat guy, Top Gun dude, with the Veterans Prostate Cancer Foundation. So Bing's doing some good work. Good dude. So you got diagnosed and got cancer, man. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and that's some scary shit, man. This is one of those things. You talk about what a great job the military does to train us to do horrible things to other human beings, and what a shitty job we do of bringing you back to your life. Right?
Yep.
I cannot say enough about the excellent care I got at Walter Reed. During that time, there was a lot of stuff in the news. It was bullshit.
Wow. Okay.
What an excellent facility. I mean, I just cannot say enough about the quality of treatment I got, the competence of
good.
I worked with. Absolutely amazing. They left out a part. They don't talk to you at all about the emotional aspect of having your manhood removed.
Mm-hmm.
Which is only a small exaggeration. I had to have my prostate cut out.
Correct.
That was some rough stuff, man. I was terrified. So here I am, newly single, 42 years old, a cocky fighter guy. I think the world owes me everything, and I'm about to, be wearing diapers and not be able to get an erection.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm looking at here.
Yeah.
It was some scary shit. So, I just was like the 1, 2, 3 punch, man. It was, it was pretty rough. And then I retired from the Navy. And this is what happens to a lot of guys is you kind of keep your shit together while you're inside that structure. You've got that purpose. You've got structure's the right word. You got that structure around.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys on active duty who are barely hanging on. They don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can do anything, and our compartmentalization skills are excellent.
Oh yeah.
I'm putting elephants in boxes at this point. I got a whole warehouse full of elephant boxes.
Yep.
So fast forward now I end up in a relationship with too young, too hot, too crazy. Typical. I just got, just separated from my wife. It was just one bad thing after another's happening to me. And, I was probably my own worst enemy. I never should have gotten in that relationship. There were plenty of signs, but man, I just needed something. And,
that's still part of the numbing, whether it's the booze or drugs or women. It's numbing, man. It's hiding from you. It's that ego, that separation from self.
Oh yeah, Shaq, bro. That's exactly what it was. And all the drama with her. I mean, she was pretty crazy. All the drama and stuff. I needed the adrenaline.
Yeah, correct.
This is one thing people need to understand about PTS, which, by the way, it's not a disorder.
Mm-hmm.
It's a normal response
Correct.
to extreme experiences, right?
Yep.
So think about this. I used to think PTSD was I'm in a foxhole with my best buddy Whiz, and his brains get blown out and splatter all over my face, right? And then I go home, I'm an angry drunk, and I wake up screaming in the middle of the night. That's what I thought PTSD was. That is PTSD, but that's not the most common mode. This thing that we call operator syndrome now. We've come to understand it. So what happens, and you know it too, when you're on these deployments, I went to war every time I went on deployment here. It's
Yeah.
just combat. It's very stressful. The demands you place on your body, the lack of sleep, the conditions you're living in on the ship.
Yeah.
You know, flying. You know, you got the jet strapped on for 8 hours a day, taking bombs up to Kabul and all this stuff. People are shooting at you. You got to hit the tanker 3 times. You got to come back and land.
Yeah, the whole landing part. Yeah.
Yeah, no shit. You ever land at night and not have your knees shaking when you stop?
God, no. Every time, dude. Every time.
Oh, you're shitting in your pants. I mean, even when you know you got it, it's
correct. Even when you're good.
It's just
yeah.
Yeah. It's just stress.
Correct.
And to survive, your brain has to kick into this fight or flight mode. It's very primitive. A woolly mammoth is charging at me. Do I get my spear out and fight, or do I run and try to save my ass? That it's a very primitive thing on a neurological level. It's a very primitive thing. So what happens when a woolly mammoth is charging at you? Your heart rate shoots up. Your respiration shoots up.
Correct.
Your vision is enhanced. Your hearing's enhanced. Your strength is enhanced. Your resistance to pain is enhanced. All these things. It's really primitive stuff. And when you operate in that environment for years and years and years, what happens is, of necessity, your quiescent operating point just shifts up.
Correct.
You are in this high state of alertness. And when you're in it for too long, it gets very, very hard to come back.
Correct. Yep. It wears you down too, man. You get tired. It's this constant state. You're right, man.
Yeah, so that's what. So I'm in that state. Like a lot of guys, and some guys manage, to work through that on their own, and they're fine. And there's plenty of successful dudes who walk out of combat. And
sure,
they're fine.
Yeah.
A lot of dudes don't. And this is one of our no fallen heroes things. Is a lot of these guys are going to fly for the airlines.
Correct. Yep.
They can't say, hey,
yeah,
FedEx, I'm fucked up.
I'm a little depressed or anxious or anything. You ain't flying anything. If you self-report, you're done. Yeah, with the FAA,
you're done.
Nope, you ain't flying anybody. Exactly.
Right. So there's there's some impetus for people to hide it.
Correct.
And, I worry about that a little bit.
So because we gotta wrap up in a little bit, because we're gonna do a multi-part. We're going to do a couple podcasts with Slider, because this was the good setup, man. So in a couple minutes, give us where were the really lows, and then we'll wrap up, and then we're going to get into the next Slider podcast will be the healing part. So let's end on a low note. Where's the low note, man?
Oh, yeah. So we'll get into the worst of it real quick here. I know something's wrong with me. I've been out for a year or two at this point. Maybe about a year. I go to the VA going, hey, something's wrong, man. I need help. I spent 18 months in this maze of bureaucracy that leads to no cheese. I mean, it was just terrible. It was just absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
How long it took, how confusing the process was. And when I finally got to a practitioner, this person was absolutely incompetent.
Oh, Jesus.
I could tell a whole story about that, but I mean, it was alarming incompetence.
Wow.
So I went phooey with you.
Yeah.
And I just said, I'm just going to tough it out. So I went on for a while, and I was still in this crazy relationship, and I had a panic attack. She beat me up pretty bad one day, particularly bad one day. It was very what am I trying to say? It was very situational. I wasn't prone to panic attacks.
Yeah.
Panic attack is an excuse of a weak-minded person. Right?
Yeah. Other people have panic attacks, not me. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I thought I was dying, man. I thought I was having a heart attack.
Oh my God.
My heart was pounding. I was sweating. I was breathing hard. I'm like, what the fuck? So I called up a doctor I had in my phone. I'm like, Doc, here's what's going on. What do I do? And he goes, I'm going to write you a script. Run down to the pharmacy right now. He's like, take this right away. He said, take 4 a day. Make an appointment with my office. Come in to see me as soon as you can.
Okay.
So I go down and I take some Ativan.
Oh, Jesus.
Ativan is This is a benzodiazepine. It belongs to a class of drugs called benzodiazepines. Common ones are Xanax, Ativan, and Klonopin.
Mm-hmm.
These are very, very bad things.
Yep.
To give someone with PTSD.
Oof.
They're severely contraindicated.
Wow.
Where my story's going is everything they say is going to happen to me. So
Jesus,
I go
all
to
the
appointment.
bad
He
aspects
has
to
me
it.
taken out of.
Jesus.
Oh, it's terrible. And you know, lots and lots of guys, even the VA, whose own studies say this stuff is contraindicated, is still giving people Ativan.
Jesus.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe we're handing this stuff out. It's terrible stuff. And you know, I could talk all day about the neuroscience. I know we got to wrap this up, but I'll tell you what I experienced on the Ativan. I took this stuff 4 times a day, faithfully, as prescribed, never wavered. Thought I was being a good patient. And what happened to me was very predictable. If you stay on this, I was on it for 4.5 years. And what happened to me is it's totally predictable. What happens is I quickly developed a dependence. It's different than an addiction. A dependence is a totally different neurological topology to that. It's dependence, not addiction.
Yes.
I was dependent on it, which means if I don't take it, I have withdrawal symptoms. So what happened is he just put me on the steady dose for 4.5 years. All my neurophysiology was adapting to this medicine, trying to counteract and undermine it.
Oof.
Because it wasn't normal. It's a sedative.
Yeah.
I'm living on sedatives.
Correct.
And so what happens is you go into what's called tolerance withdrawal. Meaning, even though you're taking this stuff, it's not enough, and your withdrawal just gets worse and worse and worse and worse.
Jesus.
That's what happened to me. So I experienced extreme anxiety, like clawing your way out of your own skin anxiety.
Ugh.
A cognitive fog like you wouldn't believe. I just couldn't think clearly. I couldn't remember a phone number. I couldn't reason through stuff. I substantially banged up my business because of that.
Yeah.
I experienced derealization, which is this feeling, this sense that the world around you isn't real, which we actually happen to notice in some way.
Exactly.
I mean it in a good
Foreshadowing.
way. I mean that in a good way.
Yes.
You're detached from it. It's like nothing I do matters. It's not real to you. I experienced depersonalization, which is this feeling like you're living outside of yourself. As a matter of fact, I described to the doctor one time, I feel like I'm watching my life unravel through a dirty window.
Wow.
And all kinds of stuff, sleep problems, you name it. But,
Yep.
What ended up happening is I started self-medicating.
Yep. Here we go.
First with marijuana, and at first it was a little bit to help me sleep at night. I progressed to I'm stoned all day and not doing the things I need to do.
Yep.
And then that eventually progressed into cocaine usage. By the end of it, I was jamming needles in my arms.
Wow.
It got that bad. I just wasn't in control of anything. And I was so miserable. Couldn't think. Couldn't function. I mean, it was the worst.
Jesus.
I can't imagine a worse.
Suicidal?
Oh, I was suicidal. Yeah. I'll tell you, the only reason I'm alive is because of my kids.
Yeah.
I got 2 amazing, amazing sons. I just couldn't do that to them. That's the only thing that stopped me.
Wow.
I was in hell. And, the suicide rate amongst people going through benzodiazepine withdrawal is alarmingly high.
Jesus. Well,
so bad.
Well, not only that, I mean, you're carrying around what happened in the nav. You're carrying around the cancer. You're carrying around now the benzos. Jesus Christ, man. I mean, the hits keep on coming.
Yeah. These are a whole bunch of moral injuries. These are, big traumas. And when you're living on tranquilizers all day long, you're not processing your trauma.
No.
You're not healing. You're just numbed out and
Correct.
adding more trauma.
Exactly.
I mean, the shit I went through was terrible.
Yeah.
So, how much time we got left?
We'll wrap up here in the next couple minutes. Yeah, we'll do a couple more sessions, man. But this is good. So you're literally scraping the bottom of the barrel at this point.
Oh, I was bad. And so I went to the prescribing doctor and I showed him my arms, which are all shredded up. I said, Doc, look what I'm doing to myself. And he goes, you need to go to rehab. I'm like,
You
no
think?
kidding.
Yeah,
I need to
thanks,
go to
dude.
rehab, dude. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking die here, man. I'm like,
Yeah.
this isn't me. I
Yeah.
mean, it was. I don't know how I got there. I mean, it was just
Yep.
like a dream.
Yeah.
So the guy cold turkeys me off of the Ativan, and I go into acute withdrawal.
Oh my God, man.
I went into acute withdrawal, foaming at the mouth, ears ringing like I got my head in a jet intake.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, it felt like cold water was running down over my body every few seconds. It gets like ice water being dumped on my head. Extreme paranoia. Didn't sleep more than about half an hour for months and months and months at a time. I spent 7 months in a darkened room with noise canceling headphones on, AC at 65. I made a nest of beanbag chairs and blankets, and I sat there and I rocked back and forth.
Oh my God. Wow.
It was bad. So,
Jesus Christ.
fast forward, I ended up having to replace it with Valium. I basically put myself through medical school. And I did. I found a great doctor who helped me get off this stuff. By the way, he has me going to talk to other physicians now, telling them about
Oh, wow.
it.
Well, then
yeah,
the
I had to
suffering
get
had a
on
purpose, man. So, what was it, about a year? A year or so ago, our mutual brother Ponch reaches out to me because Ponch had seen me do the medicine and stuff like that, and he's like, dude, my best friend is at the end, Slider. I'm like, oh fuck, I remember Slider. He's like, dude, he's on his way out, and I think this could help him. So around that time, you heard the medicine calling to you, apparently.
Yeah. So Ponch, he's brother of another mother. We went through flight school together and all that stuff. I love the guy. I was in his wedding. His wedding's beautiful.
Great dude.
These are just dear friends of mine. He heard you tell your story in the Top Gun options brief, and he calls me up. He's like, "You remember Whiz?" I'm like, "Yeah, I remember that clown from
exactly perfect.
Our fighter jets,
Yeah.
I said, I remember. I mean, we didn't know each other well. I remember being in a briefs with you. I remember you being around and stuff. I didn't know you well, but he's like, man, you got to see this thing. Whiz came back and did this thing called his initial debrief on YouTube. You just basically got in front of the camera and
I just started talking.
And you told your story.
Yeah.
Dude, I listened to that, and it was only because it was you that I was even open to receiving any of it.
Wow.
Because I absolutely, prior to hearing your account of it, man, you gave me something beautiful. You put the ladder down for me, right? You gave me something great here because it was you telling the story. I was able to go, well, maybe this isn't fruitcake hippie bullshit, new age bullshit. That's what I would have said.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a lot. I'm an analytical guy. I wouldn't have believed that stuff.
Science.
But you said it worked.
Mm-hmm.
But you said it worked, and I said, I'm miserable here. And at this point, I spent about 2 years. I'd replace the Ativan with Valium. I spent about 2 years tapering off the Valium, which was excruciating. I laid on the couch trying not to move. And so at this point, I think I'd been off the Valium almost a year. And I'm having, I still suffer from a protracted case of post-acute withdrawal syndrome. It's right. It's getting better. But, I was just miserable. And I'm like, I'll try anything. Just like Marcus Capone, I'll try anything. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Well, I went and tried. Well, you know the rest of the story.
I do know the rest of the story, folks. And that's why that's a perfect to be continued. The rest of the story, man. Slider jumped up in bed and with energy shooting out from his soul, filling the room with love like a fucking lighthouse, to him and I down in Mexico with him being surrounded by the lights of the Holy Spirit standing in the kitchen, man. So that's my foreshadowing. So brother, dude, thanks. This is perfect because this was the initial brief, man, because you being able to sit here and saying, hey, I was as fucked up as a bag of doorknobs is pretty cool. And folks, if you're listening to this and this is you, man, everybody's got traumas, but Slider's sitting here with fucking, he's an ace. he's a fighter ace with traumas and fucked upness. And if this guy, look at him now, man, he's smiling. He's got the beach in the background. He's a fucking centered human being. He was always a wonderful human being, but now he's even more so. Right? Am I right, my brother?
Oh yeah, man. And that's, I won't wreck the rest of the story right now, but this all happened for a reason.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All of that suffering, dude. Yeah.
I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for everything.
Listen to that, guys, because I say the same thing. I am as thankful for all the suffering as I am for the great times, because they got me to this point, man. So, all right, so you guys are going to have to, this is episode, 38? You're going to have to tune in for 39 and maybe even 40. We might have a 3 slider, because, I mean, hell, this 5-MeO DMT experience is its own brief. So, all right, folks, I'm going to get going. I got to take the jet up to Alabama tomorrow. I got to go get the annual done, and then we're gonna fly it on out to Miramar. But if you want to meet Slider in person, go down to the when's the Wonderland thing, dude? Down in Miami. It's like November. Google Wonderland Miami. Yeah. Okay, so Slider's going to be down there. He's going to be representing No Fallen Heroes at Micro Dose Wonderland, and then he's heading up to New York, right, for the Concordia event. Yeah, all the beautiful people are getting together. Clearly not Slider. He'll be the one quota. The beautiful people plus Slider. So Google Concordia as well, and because he's going to be up there representing No Fallen Heroes as well. So, all right, folks, we're going to get going. Tune in the next time to hear Slider's continuing story. Have a great rest of your day. Happy hunting. Make sure you hedge. God bless. Fights on, and namaste.